Recreation, rejuvenation, and refreshment. These are some of the words you often hear when you think about Central Park in New York City. And of course, this is a result of hundreds of years of enjoyment and entertainment that has been home to this park since its creation in 1858. But did you know that this park was a one-of-a-kind idea that was created by someone who really knew nothing about the design space? Now, as we know, that person is Frederick Law Olmstead, who went on to, of course, become one of the founding fathers of landscape architecture and urban design. And his contributions in terms of design, thinking, ideology have gone on and transcended and really changed the way we as designers are designing today. But of course, this isn't a video about Olmstead. This is about Central Park and what Central Park did for us. So let's take a look at what Central Park did for New York at the time and how it changed the way cities are designed in their future and in our future as well. Now, to understand the relevance of Central Park today, we must understand the circumstances and the reason why it was created in the first place. Now, at the time, in the mid-1800s, only about 3% of humans lived in an urban environment. Now, of course, we know that today to be much higher, and we expect to be at about 70% by 2050. So you might be asking, well, if the population was so small at the time, then why do they need this, and why do they need something of this size to happen? Well, there's a few reasons why. Number one is that New York was seemingly doubling every single year in terms of population. New tourists, workers, and people of all over were coming to New York City, which was great for the city, but also brought lots of new problems, mainly being health problems. New York had to figure out a way to solve this problem, and people of that time thought that if they just had more fresh air, then all of these illnesses would disappear. So this huge population increase, as we know, it wasn't going anywhere and was here to stay, so people in New York really needed to figure out a solution for this problem. Secondly was that New York City was becoming the destination in America, and everything they had done prior and in the future is always bigger, better, and more efficient. So it's only natural that they wanted their park to be something of grand scale as well. So they really wanted to have this statement piece in New York City that was comparable to parks in London or parks in Paris. So New York decided to hold a design competition for this farmy, swampy land that we know today as Central Park. This competition consisted of 33 different entries from all over the world. Some of the best architects and designers had ideas for this space, but they decided to go with a young Frederick Law Olmstead, who was just a farmer and writer in Connecticut, and the new up-and-coming young architect, Cal Vervo. And their idea for that park is what was so resilient and what really changed the game for landscape architects and how urban designers think about planning cities of the future. Their plans for the park was to be very naturalistic and native to the region of New York, as well as providing opportunities for everyone to have a very democratic space. This was a place where people of all types could come together, experiencing nature, experiencing different things, and all be together without societal problems or class problems or things like that. This is a place for everyone. Another thing they really stressed about having was having a space for people to come to that don't necessarily have the opportunities to go out of the city and to experience some of the rural gray areas that New York and some other parts of the US have, but to have that and bring it towards their own city so that they have that opportunity right here. So as you can see, the park's main focus was people, which is great and is something new and innovative that they were starting to do at that time. Because for the most part during that time and before that time, the primary functions of parks tended to be very experiential and very one function. Like it's very focused on either the aesthetics or maybe the form, or has this amazing water feature, or look how nice, neat, tendered that some of these plantings and things are. It was for the first time that they have started to go away from that and say, all those things are great, but hey, we can actually provide for people as well. And by doing so, they created this amazing space that was for the people and was very native to the environment and has been very adaptable and has molded very well over the last 200 years since it was created. Especially if you start to think about some of the other parks during that time, you'll notice that they have some very specific kind of edges or conditions that really kind of somewhat date them back to when they were created, whereas Central Park, of course, feels old and historic and all those great things, but its use is very modern, and it's one of the most used parks in the world. So Central Park really was able to revolutionize the idea of the marriage between aesthetics and purpose. Because of course, if you look back and think about what Central Park has to offer in terms of aesthetic, it's incredible. It has beautiful bridges, it has tons of statues, landmarks and things. It has lakes, ponds, beautiful nature. It has everything you can think of in terms of aesthetic, but it also has just amazing, ahead of the class programming opportunities for space for people. Now, of course, a lot of these things comes down to how well it can be programmed and what the community thinks about it and how the community backs that environment. But if you can do your due diligence as a designer and set it up in a really proper way to have these things as easy as possible, as stress-free as possible, it's going to maximize the opportunity for that park to be utilized in the way it's intended. Now, one of these things that makes Central Park achieve these things is something that we know in the design world today as imageability. Imageability is something that Kevin Lynch came up with later down the road, who was a very successful icon in terms of urban design, but he really came up with the idea of how to help guide people in terms of movement and help people understand where they should be and what they should be doing in those spaces. So some of these terms that you hear now that would apply to our park and would apply to Central Park now is things like landmarks, nodes, edges, and paths. These are all things that the designer has set up in their drawings and in their designs, so that subconsciously it's going to help guide you and inform you on what you're doing. And having this be very strong in your design is really going to encourage people to use things in the best way possible. So let's take landmarks for examples. These are our things like bridges and statues. Now, what you'll notice if you walk through Central Park is that you'll see these everywhere, and it's purposely done that way. They have purposely kept these portions or these areas very visible so that your eye sees them, and subconsciously you're like, oh, what's over there? Let's go this way. Or maybe there's a bridge. Maybe I want to go under the bridge. Maybe I want to go over the bridge. Then you get over the bridge. What do I see next? All those things are subconsciously informing you as the user on what you want to be doing in that space, or where are you going, or where is your destination? And not to mention that landmarks are a fantastic way to help orient you within that space, help be a destination point, or help you guide yourself to a point of interest within the space. So there's all these great things that Central Park is doing, and you can look very in-depthly at what Central Park does by Kevin Lynch's breakdowns of imageability, and you'll really see how well done it's set up. So what does all of this mean then, and what does all of this mean now for us as we design cities today? To me, there's two main things that have helped cities, designers, planners understand how to create better usage for a park or an idea in a city. Number one is having a better understanding of what the needs of the area is. One example of this is having a larger emphasis on native plantings and restoring the habitat from that region. Because you're going to accomplish many different things by doing this. You're going to bring the habitat back to the city that was originally there beforehand, and you're going to help preserve the longevity and the sustainability behind those spaces as well. And of course, it's going to help with maintenance costs and things, because these things are naturally built to live in these areas, whereas if you're bringing things from all over the place, they require a ton more maintenance to make sure that they live and withstand some of the seasons and differences that they have from their own native region. Because a lot of times a park will fail because maybe a city, a planner, a designer had an idea that was fantastic, but it didn't fit in with the area or the region. So 5-10 years down the road, maybe it wasn't maintained as well or maintained as the designer would have hoped, and the park kind of falls apart and the usage falls apart because of it, and it goes down this spiraling effect 10 years down the road where it's completely different than how it was intended to be used. Another thing is that a lot more thought was going into the projects before even starting. The days of picking a trend from somewhere else and trying to replicate it here were starting to dwindle. And of course, things like form and aesthetic and things like that, of course, are being replicated and are still replicated today. But in terms of the materiality and what we're using is starting to be a lot more local and a lot more sustainable towards our area, which again will lead all roles back to a more resilient and sustainable environment for us. Now, the second thing that Central Park really did an amazing job of is understanding who their clientele is. Who are the people who are going to be using that space and what do they need? Central Park had a phenomenal idea of what the future would hold for an urban environment, and they had just a great understanding of how to design with people in mind. Today, this has manifested itself by designers, cities, planners, placing a much higher emphasis on understanding the area and region in which it's in. Who are those people who live there? What are their communities like? What are their communities' needs? Where are their values? What are the demographics? What's the age group? All of those things are played a much higher role today than they were in the past. Additionally, another thing that happens now is we undergo a rigorous public process. The public process is something that happens to all public parks, and what essentially happens is we work alongside with actual residents or people involved with the city to ensure that values and ideas are aligned between designer and the use of that park. So by doing so, we're able to meet the expectations and needs of the client or the people who reside in the city. Like I said, at the end of the day, you can design anything any possible way, but unless the people you design it for receive it in the way you want or align with their values or is the way that they want to be using that space, then it will be used that way. And if not, then your park will not survive. So thanks to Central Park, we were able to kind of open our eyes to this new idea and really start to design places with people in mind and really put aside some of the aesthetic stuff and really make sure that our cities were providing places for people to go out and be in. Finish off by saying that Central Park really revolutionized the way we think about designing future cities. But we definitely have room to grow, and I hope as a designer myself that I can continue to help provide better places for people to be in and increase the livelihood of cities and really change the way we think about designing cities in the future and bring more green spaces back to our cities. Now, I know that Central Park is not the only example of a huge change or huge impact on cities or landscape or designers. So let me know in the comments below on what other projects, parks, ideas that we've had in this field that have really changed the way we think and we design as architects. I'm very curious to see what you guys think and what projects you like and what projects mean a lot to you. Also, if you liked this style of video, be sure to give me a thumbs up. This is a new format, and I'm very curious to see if you guys like this side of knowledge for landscape architecture. But that's going to be it for me today, so thank you all for listening, and be sure to check out my channel for more content covering landscape architecture and urban design. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Peace.